Hi there. This is Anthony, and I'm here today with Emma Ruehl. I had the pleasure of working with Emma on a writing for the web workshop for Public Relations Society of America NCC chapter recently, and we thought we'd just share a couple of the things that we learned. So, Emma, first, could you just tell us a little bit about your experience? Because I know you've managed website content both from an outside perspective, building for clients, but then also in-house now with City Parks Alliance. So just give us a little overview of that.
Yeah, so I've worked, like you said, both in-house and at an agency. So a lot of my background has been in graphic design, CRO, SEO, website building with the CMS. So I'm really passionate about the creativity aspect of web development, but also like the technical aspect of optimizing sites.
One of the things I love that you did in the workshop was you showed how there's this whole team that's required, SEO specialists and content writers, and then you showed your own organization and how there are two of you that have to wear all of these different hats. So as somebody who gives advice to people in this role, when somebody calls you up and says, hey, Emma, I've just gotten a new job, I'm the digital person, I'm in charge of all this, and I got to analyze my website and see what to do. What advice do you have for them to just start to tackle this when they're looking at their web content?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think priorities are really key in that kind of sense. Think about the pages on your site that are not only the most important, but have the highest, are the most urgent. So for us, with our website build, it was one of our pages called Why Urban Parks Matter. That page was getting a ton of our traffic, and it just really fit our organization's mission. So there also were minor pages on our site that we decided, this is more like a phase 2 thing. So it's important to look at those kinds of metrics in your analytics software. And if you don't have analytics set up on your site, that's probably really the first thing you should do so you can start gathering data and help make more informed decisions. And there's a lot of really great free tools out there like Google Analytics that are really easy to set up on your site.
Yeah, and you shared kind of a few examples where I think it's useful for people to hear. Sometimes when you analyze your website, you find that it's not that everybody's coming to your homepage. They're landing on another page of your site, and you may not have all the things on that page that you are promoting on your homepage, but you talked about some strategies to improve that user experience.
Yeah, so yeah, that's really important. Look at the pages on your site that are getting the most traffic, because sometimes they may be pages that you maybe don't want to get the most traffic. There was a site I worked on in the past where we had this old blog post that was, I think, responsible for like a third of our site's total traffic. And it was like super off message. It was from like 10 years ago. And it really wasn't, it wasn't on message. So what we did in that case is we created a campaign pop-up that sat on all of our pages. So we were able to reroute some of our traffic towards more relevant destinations in that case. So sometimes the pages that rank high are the ones you want to rank high, but sometimes they're not. And you got to be a little bit more nimble and creative about how you usher that traffic into your sales funnel.
I love that example. It's like a detour. If you're on a busy intersection in New York on an avenue and you're, looking at the main entrance of the hotel's closed, hopefully they have good signage that routes you around the corner into the right door. And that's kind of what you did. That page wasn't super relevant, but because it had a bunch of traffic, you were using it to route people to what was important to the organization. That's awesome advice. Now, I love some language that you used in the presentation. You talked about compassion and empathy. Can you just tell us a little bit about your philosophy on web content and what things we need to keep in mind when we're working on building or refreshing or even just keeping maintained great websites?
Yeah, so my presentation was called The Compassionate Web because a lot of great UX or user experience strategy and SEO strategy comes from understanding and having empathy for your audience. So if you're not starting from that ground point, it's going to be hard to tailor a strategy that ushers them into your website and into your sales funnel. So keep in mind that you really are building websites for not just machines like Google bots, but also humans. So that plays down into like your larger goal creating, but also into the more technical aspects of when you're actually optimizing a website.
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing for us to all remember is that we do have two important audiences. We have all these people. We want to make it easy for them to access, whatever device they're on. We want it to be visible for them so that they find the website, easy for them to share, etc. But then at the same time, we have to remember that Google has these spiders that crawl the internet and they index our websites. And if we haven't structured the content, set it up well for them, we won't be visible because we won't show up in those search engines. So I love that approach to being compassionate and keeping in mind both of those important stakeholders. Well, thank you so much. It was awesome to do this workshop with you for PRSA. I mean, what a great event. We had so many people join, and hopefully they'll repeat it again. And for folks who missed it, thanks for sharing a couple tips with them.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. Bye.